I've been told that I only have 35 minutes, and it's hard for me to get 35 minutes of this story out, 13 hours out in 35 minutes. So I'm going to do what I can. You're going to get kind of the abridged version, but we want to save time for question and answers too. And I'm kind of a jokester, if you haven't noticed already. And I'm not a big podium speaker. I feel like I'm a professor here talking down to folks, and that's not me at all. I'm just like everybody else. But let's get into it. Former Army Ranger, was with Special Forces as well. Contractor for 10 years. Approximately worked Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Libya, UAE, Qatar, South America, Central America, and fought some pirates off the coast of Somalia every once in a while. So I had a lot of fun, and I actually missed it quite a bit. But getting into that night there in Benghazi and the day prior to, it was fairly, and Benghazi was different. Now, Benghazi was different than a lot of places I've worked at. Even Tripoli, I've been there prior. It just was very, very seedy atmosphere. It just seemed like we were not being told, even by our own government, we were not being told what exactly we were doing there. And they were keeping us security officers, global response staff, out of the full knowing of what was actually taking place here. We were still doing our normal operations as a GRS element. GRS, our main job is low profile protection of case officers. So all those CIA officers that think they're Jason Bourne, they're not, all right? It's us, and we're the ones in the background, blending in with the local populace, overwatching them, making sure they're not being followed, making sure they're not being kidnapped. And we pride ourselves on knowing the city better than the locals. We pride ourselves on knowing the area. And Benghazi was different. I mean, I worked everywhere. I could not put my finger on it. Well, that day of 9/11, 2012, it was a normal Benghazi day. I mean, normal for Benghazi. There's still some shooting going on between local militias. You have Rafal Sahate there, you have Ansar al-Sharia there. We had seen the Al-Qaeda flag flying. We had reported that. So I know the news media likes to say that we didn't know if there was Al-Qaeda there. We did. In fact, I can get you a Google map and pinpoint the flags that we saw, if we ever wanted to do that. But really, throughout the day, it was quiet. And myself, being on Quick Reaction Force, QRF with D.B. Benton, for those who've read the book, we were supposed to monitor activity all day for our guys doing operations out in the city. And we had no reports of there being any sort of protests. I love that. Protests. There was no video. I didn't actually know about a video until I got to Germany 2 days later and saw Susan Rice on TV. We know no firefights, big firefights, no altercations, no threats against U.S. facilities that day. So it was fairly quiet. And we needed to know that so we can report it to our guys doing operations in town. Now skip to the evening time. We had Tig, Ty Woods, who passed away that following morning. John Tig Tigan, you've probably seen him on TV, the big Marine, glasses, big guy. They were out doing operations right in the vicinity of the consulate. And I'll call it the consulate because that's what we call it. They dumbed it down to call the special mission, and then now it's called the joint, they named it something else now. The reason they did that is because they lowered the security posture there. So now they can say, well, it wasn't really a consulate, so now we didn't have to have the security that we were required to have there if it was. So it's just a way for State Department to limit themselves responsibility. But anyway, we were doing operations right outside the consulate 30 minutes before it was attacked. And it was quiet, there was nothing going on, and we had got reports back that they were coming back home and that we were going to end the night. And 9:32, and I know this conflicts with Mike Rogers' report, which is a bunch of bull hockey, and it conflicts with the ARB. At 9:32, we got a call that all GRS needed to muster in the team room, and we did that. Immediately as we walked out the door, I could hear the firefight. I could see the tracers, and I could hear the explosions. RPGs do not explode like they do in the movies. There is no rockets. It's not like that. You have an explosion. From the explosion of the propellant in the back, and then you hear explosion when it hits. So you're hearing a boom, boom, and it's quick, that quick. And you're seeing the tracers up in the air, and I'll be honest, it's incredible. I love that stuff. It's just amazing. And you're seeing it found. I go to our team leader, and he's the staff team leader, and I've worked with him before. He's still working, so I can't give you his name. And I said, "What's going on?" And we're trying, maintain some level of calmness because you don't want the civilians, the non-shooters, panicking because then you're trying to herd cats on that compound. He says the Tanto's under attack. So all right, so we go get our gear. 5 minutes, we're ready to go out the door. We're ready. Ty, Jack, John. Mark was actually on an op out in town still, which is Oz. They have the car set. I mean, our team was outstanding. And we're ready to go out the door. And I remember going up to our chief of base and our team leader. It's 9:37 now. And I said, hey, we're ready to go. And I remember and this just upsets me to no end. I remember Bob's his name, if you ever read the book, our chief of base, and he looks right at me and he goes, you guys need to wait. And then the team leader reiterated to me, and I'll give him those first 5 minutes. I was an officer in the military. I was an officer in the Army with Special Forces. I was also enlisted as a Ranger. I figured, well, maybe they're trying to give us some support, even though we had no rapport with anybody in the city. We had no rapport with any of the militias. A lot of the countries that we worked in, like Afghanistan and Iraq, I actually worked and lived with local armies. Kandahar, I had the greatest Kandahar security force. They were all local guys. And so we learned to trust them. They trust us. We learned to work with them. We ride with them. In Benghazi, we didn't have that, which was odd, because normally we do if we're depending on our local militia to support us. But I gave it I said 5 minutes. Okay, let's see what they're trying to do. In that 5 minute time frame, I asked, and I know this, the left and even some people on the right say this didn't happen. I know what happened. I asked for it. I said, we need a Spectre gunship, which is air support, and we need an ISR, which is a UAV, a Predator. And I asked for that the first 5 minutes of the attack. Went back to my vehicle, and I said, hey, DB was sitting there. I said, hey, we need to wait. And he's, DB's a very calm Marine, overly calm Marine. And I got on the radio, and Ty's going, what's going on? And I said, hey, we've got to wait for a bit. And during this time frame, we had actually shared our frequencies, our radios with the State Department guys. And they're calling us on the radio saying, hey, we need you guys here, we're under attack. And it was difficult for us to sit there for those first 5 minutes. But I said, but as an officer and as a commander myself in the military, I understood that first 5 minutes. I'll give it to them. 10 more minutes go by, and the pleads on the radio are coming a little bit more, voracious. Thank you. Who said urgent? You're gonna be my speechwriter. You got a little bit more urgent. And I couldn't tell from Scott Wicklund or Alec Henderson on the State Department side because of the urgency in their voice. Urgency. And it was, we need you guys to get here. We need you guys to get here now. And I remember Tig, 15 minutes after the initial call, gets out of the car, goes over to Bob. And here's the infamous words, and I've said it 1,000 times. Tig said it 1,000 times. Tig goes, we need to go now, we're losing the initiative. And he was right. And he goes, and Bob looks right at him, right in his eyes, goes, you guys need to stand down. They were said, I don't know how much else I need to say that the word stand down, military stand down, non-military stand down. We're stand down leaders. So we've got to wait and a stand down 15 minutes in. Now 15 minutes in a firefight like that, now we know these guys are in trouble. And now we're starting to get pissed. But we're still trying to maintain our military bearing. All of us were special operations or Marines. All of us were either SEALs, Rangers, Recon Marines, or Infantry Marines. All of us were in our upper 40s, which is actually, for special ops guys, that's kind of old. But it gives you, it gives you a little bit more, you're more apt to handle the situation. 10 more minutes go by, and finally we get a radio call, and I want to say it was from Scott Wicklund. Scott's a friend of mine. Scott was a friend of mine over there as well. And he goes, on the radio, he goes, if you guys don't get here, we're going to die. And I remember I got out of the vehicle, I looked at our team leader, I looked at Bob, and I wasn't asking him more. I said, I took at our team leader, I go, you get in the effing car right now. And I remember, and I get chills every time I think about it. I remember I started getting back in our vehicle, which was behind Ty's vehicle. Ty looked at me, I didn't have to give him a sign. He looked at me, gave me a thumbs up. Ty was a big guy too. Ty he had ham hocks for his forearms. He goes like this, and I put my hand up, and we ran out the gate. And this thing, the picture's in my head, because when you go overseas, you have these little things that help you cope because you're gone from your family for so long. And that was, I don't know what deployment that was for me, my 50th or 60th deployment. Just gone. And we had these little turtles in the middle of our compound, and we gave them all names. And we actually put little name tapes on the turtles. Those were our pets. And I remember I looked and saw the turtles when we were driving out, and I thought, man, it's the last time I'm going to see these turtles. And we went out the gate, and we started to drive towards the compound. Now I got to, because of time, I'm skipping ahead a little bit. A lot more detail of what happened during those first 35 minutes in the book. A lot more detail. And but as we're driving there, we're moving now, we get about halfway there and we have to stop. We did lose the initiative. The forces, Ansar al-Sharia, which is who they were, Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb, who was there as well, both are terrorist organizations. I don't know why we don't call them that, but they are. They had actually solidified their positions and they had been blocking positions, so we could not drive all the way to the compound, so we actually got out of our vehicles. And I remember Scott or Alec coming across our radio again going, guys, they're lighting the buildings on fire, we need you here now. You know, the smoke's getting in the buildings, we're gonna die if you guys don't get in here. And you could hear the coughing and the choking in the voice. It had to be Scott. Scott was the one who was attached to the ambassador. And I remember I went up to TL and I looked at DB. DB was one of my best friends and I knew he had my back. And I go, we gotta go on foot. And I grabbed my machine gun, my belt-fed machine gun, I grabbed my rifle, I put my armor was on, my helmet, night vision was on, my magazines were full in my pockets. I was wearing shorts because I'd been fighting pirates in shorts, so I didn't think this extra piece of cloth was going to protect me from anything. So, and we started going on foot, and we started jumping walls, and this is a comical part for me, because I'm old for a ranger now. And we get that first 7-foot wall, and I start climbing up it, and I'm like, holy crap, I'm old. And I got sort of in my head. And DB is saying the same things, like, and all I could think of, and it just goes back to the level of training that you get as a special operator, as a ranger. Man, I did this in Ranger School. I did this at the Derby Queen, which is a huge obstacle course. I got punished, which I think our government calls hazed now. I got hazed every day at Ranger Battalion. And if that's what, I got tortured every day at Ranger Battalion, if that's what Nancy Pelosi or Weinstein says. I said, what about, I've been tortured, I can do this. And it's just a mindset. The mindset kicked in, and I was fine. Now, I felt it the next day, believe me. But the mindset kicked in, and we just started moving on foot. And there's a lot of things that happen in between there because Jack, DB, Jack, Tig, and Ty actually started moving on foot in a different direction. So we actually started moving simultaneously while Tig was covering us with the 40mm grenade, and those things are incredible. If you ever shoot one, guys that are veterans, you hear that whoop, and you wait for it, then you hear the concussion, just choose. And just that explosion itself usually will scare the savages away. Well, you know, I know Kris Powell, and he was at, and local American Sniper. We're not calling all the Muslims savages. The ones that are trying to kill us, yes we are. And if people are offended by that, well, so be it. That's how it is. Well, we moved there, we got there to the consulate. What's my time? Good, all right. So we get to the consulate, and there's some comical parts in there while we're moving. A wall collapses on me while I'm trying to climb over it. You know, all fun stuff that happens in war and combat, enjoyable times. And we actually up linking up into the consulate itself. And I know some guys don't think this is what I do. It was awesome. Everything's on fire. I mean, it's just, to me, it's just, I love this. Because when you're, and it's true, Rangers are really only focused if you're shooting at them or throwing hand grenades at them. I am in my element. I mean, everything is vivid. Greens are greens. I mean, I feel like I can see through walls. It's incredible. The fire's going up, the green hues, and it's just, and there's just, we actually managed to fight off, I should say, Tig and Jack and Ty managed to, a 40mm grenade moving on their way to the compound. They were actually able to push off Ansar al-Sharia. So we got on there. The compound itself, the consulate, is 8 acres large. It's 2 football field size large. There's 6 of us. So we end up trying to clear it. It's full of vineyards. It's full of a little garden. There's buildings spread out. 2 of them are on fire. And we got to go find all the State Department guys because they're in all different buildings and all their safe rooms. And we end up going, and I said, I'm no spring chicken. I was tired. But we get there, we clear the buildings. A lot more into that. It goes in depth in the book. We find all the guys, and we start searching for the ambassador and Sean Smith. Now during this time frame, you know, the building it's like a pizza. And I remember going in the villa and having to come back out going, wow, I didn't expect that. And they use diesel to start the fires. So the diesel fuel and the fumes, you can go in a little bit and you got to come back out. So what we're doing is we're trying to pull security while we're having guys go in and run out. It's basically playing tag. Hey, go, you're it, go. And you run in, you run out. And we've managed to find Scott and Dave, and Scott Wickland and Davey were the two Department of State security guys, and they were helping us. So I don't want you to ever think the State Department security guys didn't do anything. They did. They just got caught flat-footed, but once a couple of them got their bearings, they were trying to help us find Ambassador Sean Smith. We managed to find Sean Smith and get his body out. He had died of smoke inhalation, and we hadn't gotten there for 45 minutes, so he was dead. I remember pulling him out. I remember Jack tried to resuscitate him, and so did Ty. We did that more of a courtesy to the State Department guys. We knew when somebody dies of smoke inhalation, you know they're dead. Blue lips, cold, and a little bit rigid. And I remember we pulled him in, got him out. Myself and Jack got him in the back of the armored Mercedes that we had. Set a prayer over him, closed the door, and we got back to it. I mean, you don't have time really to grieve. You can grieve later, but there's still stuff going on. And by this time, 17 February, or whoever they were, started to get on the compound. So now we had to watch ourselves because we had locals or local military guys on the compound with us. We're still searching for the ambassador, and I hear an explosion. And I'm thinking, wow, what was that? Well, 17 Feb guy, or maybe it was an Ansar Sharia guy. Again, it's hard to tell when you're overseas who's who. He comes running by and he's lost his hand. There's a chain on there, and I'm thinking, I go, what happened? What happened? And one of the locals there, he goes, grenade, grenade. And to me, I'm thinking, well, sir, you're right, you son of a gun. You tried to throw a grenade at us, you cooked it off, and you blew your hand off. Go put some ice on it. Take it in, face out, drink water. Fine. But then another explosion comes by. Another explosion hits the villa, and I'm on the back side of it. I'm like, oh, that's not a grenade. What had happened is 17 February had come in through the back gate that myself and DB had jumped over, and they had opened it. So basically, there was a field of fire coming in. We had a guy poking his head around, shooting RPGs at us, rock-propelled grenades at us, and they were basically doing a counterattack. And I remember the bolts start snapping. I remember the bullet went, and when a bullet cracks and snaps by your head, that means it's close. That means it's breaking sound barrier. And I'm thinking, cracking, and I'm like, yes, all right. And I turn around, and I just start shooting. Right back, we're shooting muzzle flashes. Our night vision at that time, because of all the fires, it really whited out our night vision. So at that time, it didn't give us much of an advantage. So I just popped my goggles up, and I just was shooting muzzle flashes. And every time the RPG guy poked around his head, I tried to shoot him. Then DB got in the act. Then John got up on top of the villa, and that's how John is, risking because the villa's on fire, and he'd get on top of it to get a better firing position. Tig, and we all start laying hay down this avenue approach. And the RPG guy comes around too many times. He picks us, shoot, and then he comes around one too many times. And Tig takes credit for shooting him. I still think I got him. but we'll let Tig have it. And I said, Tig, you got it, because you did risk yourself, even though I was out in the open shooting. And Tig nailed him. We'll say Tig nailed him. But as soon as he went down, the firing stopped. I do not believe Ansar Sharia and Al Qaeda in the Maghreb believed that we were there. Guys like us were there. So as soon as we knocked him out, that guy went to the ground like a sack of potatoes. Firing stopped. And it gave us the lull, really, to get out of there. So it's about midnight now. Now, we still haven't found the ambassador, but we got everybody else out of there. The State Department guys had left. We put them in a level 7 vehicle, and they got back to our compound. Now, I can't go into much because of my time, but they were actually, you don't hear this in the news, they were actually ambushed on the way back. And they were shot to heck, and they were very lucky to get back alive. Their vehicle got back to our compound on rims. I mean, it was run flats, it was tore up, level 7 armor was tore up. The reason they got ambushed is because there was an Ansar Sharia house 200 meters that was from the consulate. Now, we had reported that to State Department and CIA. So, and I brought that up to Mike Rogers' attention when we were doing the House Intel Subcommittee about there being an intelligence failure, just a little one, because there's a terrorist house overwatching the consulate. So, again, media doesn't really hit that. Fox hit that a little bit. I don't know why that's been swept under the carpet, but that's a pretty big deal. Anyway, as we move on and progress, we finally have to leave the consulate. It was still the hardest decision that it still haunts me because as a ranger, you never leave a fallen comrade to fall in the hands of the enemy. SEALs have the same credo, Marines have the same credo, Special Forces have the same. You don't leave somebody, and we couldn't find the ambassador. We thought he was kidnapped. We almost lost Ty. He almost got trapped, and we almost lost him there in the consulate because he got so far in the back in the smoke, And when diesel fumes or any kind of black smoke, the firefighters know, you can't see them. You use flashlights, it just reverberates back to you, reflects back to you. So we had to make a decision. And we knew that we had just fought off a counterattack, so we're thinking, well, they're going to start hitting our compound. We better get back. And we did. We ended up getting back. And that hurts, because we left the ambassador. We lost him. And people have asked me on news, whose fault is it the ambassador died? I know what they're trying to get out of me. It's my fault. It's our fault. Because we didn't buck orders soon enough. We didn't tell our civilian leadership there to go after yourself, we're going. We did eventually, but we waited too long. But moving forward, we managed to get back and we got counterattacked on our compound. Again, the book goes in a lot more detail. But there we actually had the advantage because we did plan, we were ready, we had our defense position set up, and I like military-wise, and I heard this from General McChrystal, who was my first battalion commander at Range Battalion, 2nd Battalion. Proper planning prevents piss poor performance, and we remembered that, so we had our defensive position set up, so when they started to try to hit us, we had night vision on them, they couldn't see us, we had overwatch positions, we had interlocking sectors of fire, and we handed them we crushed them. And it was great. I mean, when you see lasers bouncing and nods, and you can see the splash of the bullets, and again, it's incredible. Fireworks don't even hold close to that stuff. And I'm saying that, I'm saying that people are like, you're a sadist. No, I'm not. It's what guys like myself are. That's what we like to do. And that's just what. And there's guys like us still out there. So, and they're still in the general population, waiting for the Islamists to raise their ugly head in our own state. We're just waiting for it. But anyway. So we fight out the first attack. 2 o'clock goes by, now it's 2:30, and there's a second bigger attack coming. And the news media doesn't tell you this, even though the State Department says, well, you guys did get an ISR, a Predator at that time. And they won't still tell me if it was a Reaper or an actual Predator because the armaments are different. I've asked that question several times and I can't get an answer. But anyway, the feed was so delayed that they were giving us information of, hey, these guys are coming for you. I would see them 3 minutes before I got the feed. So the State Department's saying, well, yeah, you guys did have an ISR. Well, it was worthless because I was seeing what was going on, and then would give me I saw 30 guys moving towards us. 3 minutes later, hey, we got a report, there's 30 guys moving from your east side. And I remember getting on the radio, and I even said this in the book, I go, you can call off that ISR, it's worthless. I said, I'm seeing it before they're even giving me the information. And I got a chuckle from everybody on the radio. But the second attack came, and it was a bigger attack, but they're dumb butts. They come from the same direction again that we just hammered them on. And this time we're just waiting for them. It's just like an ambush. And at night, if you don't have night vision, you tend to shoot high. So you're hearing snaps, RPGs are going over our heads, but training and being in those situations before, I'm not moving, I'm not ducking, they're not going to hit me. I mean, it's going right there, but they're not going to shoot me because they don't know what the heck they're doing. And we hammered them again. I remember a guy came across the front of the vehicle to shoot us, and Mark had the interlock, Oz had a sector of fire, and he just nailed him in his chest while the guy's trying to throw a grenade or a gelatina bomb. But whatever he threw dropped and it blew up, and it was on again, and we tore him up again. I know people like to keep score with body counts. Ansar Sharia controlled the hospital in Benghazi, but our reports from our assets there were, and I don't like to keep score, but if people want to know the body count, we killed approximately 40 of their guys. That's what we found out. All right, unconfirmed, but I know people always want to know that, so I'm going to answer it right now before I get a question about it. Time. Okay, good. All right, so we're feeling good about ourselves. We're like, all right, we didn't have the ambassador. He's probably kidnapped. We're 3-0 now. Actually 4-0. We've kicked their butts 4 times. The Tripoli team finally arrives from Tripoli, and that's our GRS guys, our own guys plus 2 Delta Force operators come in around 4 o'clock-ish. They get to our compound, they come on. Glenn Doherty, Bub, is the only one that comes to assist us on the roof. Nobody else did. The Delta Force operators didn't, none of our other GRS guys did. He comes up on the villa, on our TOC, our Tackle Operations Center villa, our Villa C, to see, because him and Ty are friends. And at that time, for some reason, we had Dave up on that building too. We had Oz up on that building as well. 10 minutes go by, and I hear a thump. I'm like, oh crap. I remember I just immediately went like that. And I lost hearing in my left ear. because the DB happened to be shooting right next to my left ear. So I thought I heard something. It didn't sound like a normal mortar tube drop. And I remember I went across the radio and I said it kind of like a question. I go, mortars? And all of a sudden you hear just a wham. The mortar hits 10 meters outside of Villa C and they start counterattacking us from a different direction. And I remember Ty had a machine gun up there and he just unloaded. And then Mark got into it, and me and DB got into it. And then 4 more mortars hit and they're direct on Villa C. It was just boom, boom, boom. And I remember everything got silent. And I remember looking, and it goes in the book, goes in a lot more detail. But I remember thinking, I go, man, been through mortar attacks before, and I know when mortars go silent, and you can see the smoke rising from the middle, or the dust and smoke rising from the middle of the villa, and man, we lost somebody. I knew it. Me and DB and Jack were the only 3 left, and we ended up shooting and firing. And we managed to fight off that attack as well. We were very lucky that we had the Libyan Shield militia come in and try to assist us, because they're the ones that actually chased off the mortar team, or they would have kept hitting us and we would have died. There's no way we could have happened then. Okay. As we get farther down the road, and there's more to it than this, I want you all to read the book. I've just told you briefly really what happened. We managed to get out of there. You know, skipping a lot forward, but we had to commandeer our own aircraft to get out of there. Benghazi aircraft we had to use to get out of Benghazi. U.S. assets never came from us. We did manage to get Ambassador Stevens out. He was not mutilated. I checked his body. He died of smoke inhalation, and there's another story into that too. I just don't have the time to tell it. But if people can ask questions. Tonight I can tell it if I got more time tonight. And this is my cue right here. Okay. But,
you have that video ready to go? Okay.
but you know, I don't want this to be a downer. It's not. There's some tremendous things that happened that night. The leadership, the camaraderie, the brotherhood of military and special ops guys showing through. The bottom-up leadership, where we actually took control of the situation, excelled because of our training. And now, because of this immense cover going on, I think we're really bringing folks together. And you guys allowing me to speak is helping me get through this. So I just want to thank you very much.